I'll never forget the night that changed everything between us. It was one of those perfect summer evenings when the air feels electric with possibility, and the sky was painted in shades of orange and pink as the sun began its slow descent behind the city skyline. The balcony where we stood overlooked the bustling streets below, a small sanctuary 5 floors up from the chaos of downtown. It wasn't particularly fancy, just a modest concrete platform with a wrought iron railing adorned with a few potted plants I'd been struggling to keep alive. But that night, it felt like the most important place in the world. I hadn't planned for anything special to happen. In fact, I'd invited Alex over simply to celebrate getting through another grueling work week. We'd been friends for nearly 2 years after meeting at a mutual friend's birthday party, where we'd spent hours in the corner discussing everything from classic literature to our shared love of obscure indie bands that nobody else seemed to appreciate. There had always been something between us, a current of tension that neither of us acknowledged but both clearly felt. Alex arrived at my apartment that evening with a bottle of wine and that smile, the one that always made my heart skip a beat. There was something different about the way Alex looked that night. Maybe it was the way the fading sunlight caught in those deep brown eyes, or how that blue button-down shirt perfectly complemented the warm undertones of Alex's skin. Whatever it was, I found myself struggling to maintain our usual easy conversation as we made our way through dinner. Should we take our glasses outside? Alex suggested after we'd finished eating, nodding toward the balcony door. It's too beautiful an evening to waste indoors. I nodded, perhaps too eagerly, and followed Alex through the sliding glass door into the warm evening air. The sounds of the city rose up to meet us, car horns, distant laughter, the faint melody from a street musician's saxophone several blocks away. Let me explain why this moment matters so much in retrospect. Up until that point, our relationship had existed in a comfortable limbo, more than friends, but never crossing that invisible line into something more meaningful. We'd both dated other people during our friendship, commiserating over breakups and offering each other advice that somehow always seemed to lead nowhere. But recently, we'd both been single for several months, and I caught myself wondering more and more frequently what it might be like if we ever took that leap together. As we settled into the 2 chairs I'd squeezed onto the small balcony space, the conversation flowed as easily as the wine. We talked about Alex's recent promotion, my struggles with my latest creative project, and laughed about the ridiculous reality TV show we'd both secretly been watching. But beneath the familiar rhythm of our conversation ran an undercurrent of something new, a heightened awareness of every accidental touch, every lingering glance. Remember that night at Rooftop Bar when you convinced me to try that horrible cocktail? Alex laughed, leaning back in the chair with an ease that I envied. What was it called again? Something pretentious with lavender and egg whites. I smiled, recalling how Alex had sputtered after the first sip. The Purple Persuasion. And if I remember correctly, you drank the whole thing just to prove a point. I couldn't let you win, Alex replied, eyes twinkling with mischief. You always look so smug when you're right about something. I do not, I protested, though I could feel my cheeks warming in a way that had nothing to do with the wine. You absolutely do, Alex insisted, leaning forward slightly. Your left eyebrow does this little arch, and the corner of your mouth turns up just so. Alex's finger traced the shape in the air between us, and suddenly the space felt much smaller than it had moments before. The conversation continued like this for what felt like hours, reminiscing about shared memories, inside jokes, and near misses. We'd had so many almost moments over the years, times when I thought something might happen, only for one of us to pull back at the last second. I wondered if Alex was thinking about those moments too, cataloging them the way I had been. As the night progressed, the temperature dropped slightly, bringing with it a gentle breeze that carried the scent of someone grilling nearby and the faint sweetness of the potted jasmine plant in the corner of my balcony. I noticed Alex shiver slightly, despite the warm evening. Cold? I asked, already rising from my chair. A little, Alex admitted. But I'm not ready to go inside yet. This is nice. I'll grab a blanket, I offered, sliding open the door and stepping back into my apartment. When I returned moments later with a soft throw blanket, I found Alex standing at the railing, looking out at the city lights that had begun to twinkle in the deepening twilight. I hesitated in the doorway, struck by the silhouette Alex created against the darkening sky, shoulders relaxed but strong, head tilted slightly, as though contemplating something profound. In that moment, I felt a surge of affection so powerful it almost took my breath away, even before anything had happened between us. "Here," I said softly, moving to stand beside Alex at the railing. Instead of simply handing over the blanket, I unfolded it and draped it around both our shoulders, bringing us closer together than we'd been all evening. Alex turned to me with a look of surprise that quickly melted into something warmer, more intimate. "Thanks," Alex murmured, and I noticed how our arms pressed together beneath the shared blanket, how our fingers were mere inches apart on the railing. "You know," Alex began, voice quieter now, "I've been thinking a lot lately about us." My heart began to race, but I tried to keep my voice steady. "What about us?" Alex turned slightly, our faces now close enough that I could feel warm breath against my cheek. "About how sometimes the best things are right in front of us all along, but we're too afraid to reach out and take them." The air between us seemed to crackle with tension. Two people lingering on a balcony, suspended in that magical moment between friendship and something more profound. I could feel the weight of our shared history pressing down on us. All the times we'd come close to this moment before, but never quite reached it. "I should probably close the door," I said suddenly, noticing how the cool air from my air-conditioned apartment was creating a draft. "Save some energy, you know?" Alex nodded, though neither of us moved for a long moment. Finally, I reluctantly stepped away, letting the blanket fall from my shoulders as I moved to slide the glass door shut. The soft thud as it closed seemed to mark a transition, sealing us into our own private world high above the city. When I turned back, Alex was still watching me, eyes reflecting the distant city lights. Without the background noise from my apartment, the low hum of music I'd left playing, the occasional ping of a notification from my phone, the sounds of the night seemed amplified. The distant sirens, the murmur of pedestrians below, the rustling of leaves from the potted plants as the breeze caressed them. I returned to the railing, but didn't reclaim my place under the blanket. Something had shifted between us, and I felt suddenly nervous, as though we were standing on the edge of a precipice. "You never answered my question," Alex said softly. "About us." I swallowed hard, gathering my courage. "I think about us too," I admitted. "More than I probably should." "And what do you think about?" Alex pressed, turning to face me fully now. I took a deep breath. "I think about all the times we've almost been more than friends. All the moments when I wanted to tell you how I feel, but couldn't find the words. All the times I've wondered what would happen if." "If what?" Alex prompted when my voice trailed off. "If I did something like this," I whispered, and before I could lose my nerve, I closed the small distance between us. The first touch of our lips was tentative, questioning, a gentle pressure that asked rather than demanded. For one heart-stopping moment, Alex remained perfectly still, and I feared I'd made a terrible mistake. But then I felt hands sliding up to cup my face, felt Alex leaning into the kiss, deepening it with a sigh that seemed to contain years of pent-up longing. The world around us fell away, the city, the balcony, everything beyond the points where our bodies connected. Alex's lips were softer than I'd imagined, moving against mine with increasing confidence. One hand slid from my face to the back of my neck, fingers threading through my hair and sending shivers down my spine. When we finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, Alex's eyes remained closed for a moment longer, as though savoring the sensation. When they opened, I saw in them a mixture of wonder and desire that mirrored my own feelings. "That," Alex said softly, "was long overdue." I couldn't help but laugh, relief and joy bubbling up inside me. "You could say that again." "I've wanted to do that since the night we met," Alex confessed, one hand still resting against my cheek. "But the timing never seemed right. Either you were seeing someone, or I was convinced you only thought of me as a friend." "I've never thought of you as just a friend," I admitted. "But I was scared of ruining what we had if things didn't work out between us." Alex nodded in understanding. "I know. I've had the same fear. But lately, I've been thinking that some risks are worth taking. That maybe we've been denying ourselves something amazing out of fear." As we stood there on the balcony, the night air wrapping around us like a cocoon, I felt a sense of rightness settle over me. This wasn't just attraction or the heat of the moment. This was the culmination of years of friendship, trust, and growing affection. It was as though all our shared experiences had been leading us to this moment, This balcony, this revelation. What happens now? I asked, suddenly aware of how this changed everything between us. Alex smiled, taking my hand and interlacing our fingers. Now we see where this goes. No pressure, no rushing. We've waited this long. We can take our time figuring out what comes next. The honesty in those words made my heart swell. This wasn't just about physical attraction. It was about building something meaningful on the foundation we'd already created. I leaned forward, resting my forehead against Alex's, and closed my eyes, simply breathing in the moment. "I'm glad you closed that door," Alex whispered after a moment. "Why is that?" "Because it feels like you opened another one at the same time." I smiled at the metaphor, knowing it was true. By shutting that glass door, I'd somehow found the courage to open my heart, to take a chance on us after all this time. We stayed on the balcony for hours after that, talking, kissing, laughing. The blanket wrapped around both of us as we sat side by side, legs touching, hands intertwined. We shared stories we'd never told each other before, fears, hopes, dreams for the future. It was as though that first kiss had broken down the final barrier between us, allowing us to be truly vulnerable with each other for the first time. I learned that Alex had almost confessed feelings to me 6 months earlier, after we'd spent an entire day helping a mutual friend move, but had lost nerve at the last minute. I admitted that I'd written and deleted countless text messages over the years, messages that would have changed everything between us if I'd had the courage to send them. "We've wasted so much time," Alex sighed, tracing patterns on the back of my hand with gentle fingers. "I don't think it was wasted," I replied thoughtfully. "I think we needed that time to build what we have, to be sure of our feelings. If we'd rushed into this 2 years ago, who knows if we would have been ready." Alex considered this, then nodded. "You're right. Everything in its own time, I suppose." As the night grew later and the city quieter, our conversation turned to practical matters. Were we dating now? Should we tell our friends? How would this change our regular routines? We didn't have all the answers, but there was an exhilarating freedom in facing these questions together rather than alone. "I should probably go," Alex said eventually, though made no move to leave. "It's getting late." I tightened my grip on Alex's hand. "You could stay," I offered, then quickly added, "just to sleep. No pressure for anything else." The smile that spread across Alex's face was worth every moment of uncertainty I'd felt that night. "I'd like that." When we finally went inside, closing the balcony door behind us, the apartment felt different somehow, warmer, full of possibility. We moved around each other with a new awareness, a delicious tension that made even the most mundane actions feel significant. That night, as we lay side by side in my bed, not quite touching but close enough to feel the warmth radiating between us, I realized that what had happened on the balcony wasn't just a beginning. It was a continuation, a natural evolution of the connection we'd been building for years. "What are you thinking about?" Alex whispered in the darkness. "I'm thinking that I've never felt this way before," I admitted. Not just the excitement of something new, but this sense of rightness. Like all the pieces are finally falling into place. Alex reached out, finding my hand under the covers. "I know exactly what you mean." In the weeks and months that followed, our relationship deepened in ways I couldn't have imagined. There were challenges, of course, moments of insecurity, fear, and doubt. Times when we had to relearn how to be with each other in this new context. But beneath it all ran the steady current of our friendship, the foundation that made everything else possible. Our friends weren't surprised when we told them. "Finally," was the most common response, often accompanied by rolled eyes or knowing smiles. Apparently, everyone had seen what was between us long before we'd been ready to acknowledge it ourselves. We returned to that balcony often, making it our special place. On warm evenings, we'd sit together, sometimes talking for hours, sometimes simply existing in comfortable silence. And on the anniversary of that first night, Alex surprised me with a small potted jasmine plant to replace the one that had eventually withered. "To remind us," Alex said, "that some things need time and patience to bloom. But when they do, they're worth the wait." As I look back now, I realize that what happened that night wasn't just about a door closing or a breath being taken away. It was about finding the courage to step through the doorway of possibility, to breathe life into feelings that had been dormant for too long. It was about recognizing that sometimes The greatest adventures begin not with grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but with two people lingering on a balcony, finally brave enough to acknowledge what had been there all along. And every time I step onto that balcony now, I'm reminded of how a single moment of courage changed everything. How closing one door opened up a world of possibilities I'd only dared to dream about before. How sometimes the most breathtaking moments in life come not from what we seek, but from what we finally allow ourselves to see. Total _char_count, 18,256.